people. We're doing a phone vertical live tonight, so we will start in just a second, see if anybody shows up here. And while I'm doing that, you can fast forward. I'm just adjusting my camera to get in space here. All right, good enough. Okay, then. It is 8:30 at Thursday night. We do regular Thursday education. My name is Christopher.
I'm Angela.
That's Angela.
We are the Dinosaur Omelets.
Dinosaur Omelet. Hi, guys. Welcome. So if you're new here, we are a small homestead and hatchery in southern Lancaster County. We raise jumbo Coturnix quail. A lot of the content on here is pertaining to raising quail and being successful with that. There's a ton of really good information in all the descriptions of these videos. I usually have links to stuff we wrote that you can use for, what do you call it? For your own home education and knowledge. Anything else special you would like to mention? Your puppy chickens?
We have silky chickens called the Dino Puffs that we also breed and sell for pets. And then we also have a grain, My Little Dinosaur.
I'm going to show them that. Let me show you this
Chicken,
big sack
it's a
of grain.
layer feed that we feed all of our chickens.
I got my
And
sign. Chicken grain, my sign's wobbling. Yeah, so we make a chicken grain. This is an old bag. It's actually a pillow in there. But yeah, we make the chicken grain because poultry nutrition is very important. So if you guys are raising, Angela raises top quality pet silky chickens, and we want them to be really super healthy. And we want our other animals to be healthy. Mm-hmm. So we formulated a grain to make sure they would be taken well care of, which is talking about chicken illnesses tonight is good for keeping their immune system robust. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yeah.
All right, coolio. All right, so any other housekeeping in order, that front end stuff. Hi there, viewer. Thanks for coming in. If you have any questions, drop them down in. We're getting ready to start with this whole live. I was just finishing my intro, waiting to see if anybody would come in here. And we're going to be talking about poultry illnesses, chicken illnesses, and quail illnesses, right? Mm-hmm. What causes them and how to cure them. And I think that's that. I will begin that. So, you don't need notes?
Oh, you're cut off. Oh, no, I'm okay. I can
She
see.
doesn't need notes. Angela's smart.
Well, I just read through it and it's in front of me.
This is stuff she deals with all the time. By the way, so
it's stuff that I educate myself on so that I know what it is.
She knows what she's dealing with. Well, plus you got customers who ask.
Yes, that's true.
All right. So these are pretty common illnesses that show up, right, with poultry keepers?
Yeah, and
typically
these types of things show up when like the living area isn't necessarily kept clean or tidy.
Filthy chicken house.
Yeah, there's just typical, like, usual care. If there's any care that's not being properly tended to, then these types of things can be common.
What she's getting at is most of the illnesses that you guys are going to face are preventable. Mm-hmm. They're happening, and it's usually a causal factor that you can determine if you have a sick animal. It'll be usually pretty obvious what it is. Now, before we begin, I should warn you, I am not a veterinarian, nor am I giving veterinarian advice. I also have that disclaimer down the bottom. So this is for entertainment purposes only, and yeah, definitely go look into this stuff, but it's really great information. It's very practical and very useful to keep a healthy flock and to keep disease from spreading. Willie Ray. What up, Willie Ray? How you doing, my friend? So let's discuss one of the big ones we hear, Ilya Rodriguez. Hi, hon. Thanks for stopping in. So coccidiosis. Anybody hear of coccidiosis? I have. Coccidiosis is quite common.
It can be.
It's common. It's present in the environment.
I
like your knife. Oh, thanks, man. I use this thing pretty much a lot. It's very handy. Always keep a little knife on you, especially if you're working around animals, you're cutting things open.
Or outside.
Or outside in general. So coccidiosis is fairly common. It's a protozoa, and it's endemic, really. It's everywhere, right?
It tends to be where animal manure buildup is. So usually animals that are kept in a stationary area, and the environment may not be, might be untidy at times. That's where you might see it.
Yeah. So and it's So a lot of these illnesses, coccidiosis, it's present in the soil. Mm-hmm. The birds are going to be not saturated, but they're going to be they're going to be in an environment where this organism is present. And a lot of these organisms, just like human beings, is you become adapted to the pathogen in your environment. So commonly, like when you're transporting or selling, or somebody picks up a chicken, you want to have them isolated, right?
Yeah.
So they can acclimate to the other animals and the other potential pathogens.
The new area that they're going to be in. It's good to have them in an area where they can de-stress and just get their immune system boosted back up, because when they're stressed, that will suppress an immune system. And then, yeah, keep new animals isolated always for a period of time, minimum 2 weeks or more, to let them de-stress and get used to everything and the new foods and such.
Yeah. Now with the coccidiosis, so the chickens are going to develop a resistance, or I guess they become hardy to it, right? They're not going to get overwhelmed.
They can be, yeah.
They can, yes. They'll develop a hardiness to usually low levels of organism. And this is very common with lots of organisms, where you get a pathogenic load or an infectious load, where if they're getting oversaturated with this stuff, their little bodies can't handle it, and they're going to get sick, and they're going to show symptoms, which are, what are coccidiosis symptoms, ma'am? How can I diagnose my chicken?
The most common symptoms would be lethargy, just tired, not engaging in regular social behavior like the other birds, the other chickens. They will sort of isolate. They'll kind of be hunched. Their feathers might be fluffed. They won't really eat and drink. And you may notice their manure. There might be like fleshy pink or reddish type color mixed into their manure, and usually that's like part of their intestinal lining coming out, because that's where the parasites are and are negatively affecting the bird internally.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so the main way to prevent this is cleanliness.
Yep. The main thing is
hello, Raul.
This type of the coccidiosis, the different stages of life while on the ground prefer damp and warm areas. So it's good to make sure that the ground, the areas where the birds are living, is kept tidy, clean, dry. I like to even add barn lime or agricultural lime to the ground, and then put bedding on top, because the lime powder dust will help dry the area out, and it also it balances out the pH levels, so that it's more of an environment that's not quite hospitable to the coccidiosis. So that's a good way to do it. Also, you could do periodic treatment in the water of chorid or different types of antibiotics or medicines, really, to help.
And some important guys too. So the chickens are shedding what's called oocysts. They're little hardy versions of these parasites that get into the soil. Relax. Wary bunny. Oh, I'm trying to relax. So they're getting into the soil and they're saturating. So this time of year, everything's frozen. It's cold. So that's why I wanted to do this poultry illness video, because we're actually going to be coming into spring quickly. Everything's going to thaw, and really importantly, there's going to be a lot of moisture. So moisture is where you're going to have all the growth of different bacteria and all the organisms. And if it's not clean, and there's a lot of this organism present and it's unclean, it can start to persist and infect your animals. So especially if you guys are new to chickens, maybe you got a chicken coop for the first time, and it's muddy and sloshy out there, you may want to take a look if it needs to be cleaned, if there's a lot of manure, chicken leavings out there.
And also the freezing temperatures, if the ground freezes, or if it's summertime and there's a lot of exposure to hot sun onto the ground, that will help to exterminate the parasite. Now,
I have to tell you genuinely, officially, as some guy on the YouTube, any illnesses you see in your chickens, immediately rush to your veterinarian and have them checked out. However, we do our own chicken diagnoses and treat them here. So what do we treat with coccidiosis? What is the medication you give to the chickens when they get sick? It's suspected coccidiosis.
A common product readily available, at least here in the U.S., at like Tractor Supply stores or on Amazon would be Corid. It's like there's different forms. You could use a powder version, which you just add to the water for a period of like 5 to 7 days. It's like it's something around a teaspoon to a gallon, and you give them a fresh batch daily. And then also there's a liquid form, an already liquid form, and also I think there's a pelleted form. So there's different forms. And I think there's also a more natural type of
There is.
medicine.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's
like the holistic
copper sulfate.
Yeah.
That I think is a 3-day only treatment, no more than 3 days. And that's actually really effective as well.
So what was I going to say about this coccidiosis? Damn, I'm forgetting. One thing goes into my head and then it's out. It's kind of hard when and this was not something on the notes. All right, parasitic coccidiosis. All right, I guess that's it. I mean, keeping the area clean, and especially in the springtime, things are warming up, is going to be preventing most of this potential illnesses. But like I said, it's an organism that's present. It's in the soil.
Yeah, you'll see it more often or commonly in highly crowded or an area where there's a lot of birds living. And other animals can get this too, like dogs in a kennel or rabbits, on the floor, on the ground, that sort of thing. Yeah. So. Oh,
I remember what I was going to say. Do we also give them chicken Gatorade?
Oh, like electrolytes.
Electrolytes. Is that applicable with the diarrhea?
So, when you're treating with Corid, for example, I believe that type of medicine, which, by the way, a medicated chick feed, there's the same medicine, the same whatever it's called, that the active ingredient or something in Corid is in medicated chick feed. So when the chicks are eating it, because chicks or juvenile birds that get coccidiosis, they tend to not do well because their bodies are so small and young.
Can affect their growth.
So the medicated chick feed, it's like a low dose.
PA 5x5. Hey there. He said, hey guys.
It's a low dose that they keep in their system while they're eating the medicated chick feed. So a lot of people like to use that.
I think that's our friend from. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So the Corid medicine in particular, while the chickens are using it, it will make it difficult for their bodies to absorb nutrients at the same time. I believe so anyway. So after the treatment, definitely good to then give them a boost of nutrients, like Nutri-Drench or electrolytes for some days after, to kind of like boost their energy and help them out with that.
But it's an illness that can be treated, and if you're, especially if you guys are new, your chickens, if you're seeing these symptoms, like I said, general and official YouTube advice is take them to the vet. But if you're going to be treating them, look for these symptoms. These are common symptoms to see for coccidiosis, the lethargy, kind of sleepy head.
As soon as you notice that too.
Do they get the glassy eyes too? Like,
I don't think
so. Not like that, yeah.
No. It is important though, if you see any of the symptoms, to treat them pretty promptly. And if you're using Corid or copper sulfate, it's not like terrible on their system to use. It's not an aggressive type of medicine.
Now I want to tell PA 5x5 is his code name on it. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's important though to treat them pretty promptly if you're seeing symptoms, because if it goes prolonged, then their health can go downhill really quickly. So,
yes.
I just want to say that.
This is about quail. So, quail and coccidiosis. So, with quail, because PA 5x5, I'm not going to use your real name. He's thinking about raising quail. So, when you're raising quail, they're going to be self-contained. They're contained in their own hutch. They should be pretty isolated from other birds. So, the likelihood of contamination is much, much lower. They're not exposed to the ground. A lot of times people say, can I house my quail with my chickens? It would be not advisable to do so. People do that. They do raise them together, but it's not advisable because they can get a pathogenic load a lot easier than the chicken can, and they can get overwhelmed. If they're isolated in their cage, they're really not exposed to. We've never had illness in a quail hutch. Okay, we've had chickens get sick, but we've never had illness in the quail hutch just because they're isolated the way they are. Mm-hmm. And you keep the quail hutches clean so you're not going to have bacteria and other things growing fungus.
If you do have them on the ground, though, or just like manure buildup, it is possible for them to get coccidiosis, the quail. So it is important, you know, to maintain good health for various type of, you know, potential illness issues. Keep their bedding material clean and tidy. And the thing with quail is they're very hardy. They're like Wolverine. They're very hardy. If they get injured, they can heal super fast. But internally, they're not as hardy because they're such a small bird. So they can get overwhelmed, like Christopher said, quickly.
Yeah, the only other issue is if the quail are kept in an area that has a lot of traffic of wild birds. Like wild birds are coming into their cage. Maybe they're feeding on their whatever, they're dropped grain. So wild birds
or even hanging out on top of the cage.
Yeah, they're they'll carry illness to chickens. That's common because they're going into their feeding area to collect food. And if the quail hutch is getting a lot of exposure from wild birds, then it's possible to have them, of course, transfer an illness. But again, personally, we've never had that problem. I guess wherever your setup is would really be the determining factor. So better not to do a quail tractor. Idea was to truck them around the garden area in the summer to eat bugs. It's feasible.
So the thing about that, it's a really good idea, but with quail, they get stressed pretty easily. So moving the cage can stop them from laying. It can stop their production of eggs from laying. And then also being on the ground, if predators come snooping around at night, they can get close to them on the ground like that, like a fox or a cat or a dog. So that'll create stress. I've talked to several people who've tried tractoring and then they're like, why aren't my quail laying? Well, they're probably stressed.
Right.
So, yeah. Unless you have like a, I don't know, maybe a large area that they're in where you won't have to move them often, and then perhaps set up one of those maybe electric type fencing around the perimeter so nothing can get to the cage. Like there's ways to handle it if you really want to do that.
A lot of work there for the tractor. It's something you could do. I mean, if you're interested in it, you could maybe half it up or keep a portion of them who you're not requiring eggs from. If you want to do a more like permaculture, yard management or garden management with the quail, to fertilize it, aerate it, take bugs out and all that.
They would really enjoy pecking the ground, pecking in the grass and the bugs.
I mean, that would be a good experiment to see size difference in body growth for a meat program.
Yeah.
And taste. Anyway, getting off track. So we talked about coccidiosis. I think we'll go to respiratory illnesses.
Okay.
Just keep it on track here. So respiratory illnesses. What is the most common cause of respiratory illnesses?
Have a fenced property with electric. Sounds like I should just keep them stationary. Yeah, most likely would be best for the quail anyway, yeah.
Yeah. If your goal is eggs, you want to keep them in hutch. Stationary, reduce the stresses, and then increase production. So respiratory illnesses. So respiratory illnesses are common in a coop, caused by a coop, and caused by a dirty coop, really. I think it's primarily
manure buildup
with poor ventilation. We talk about this quite frequently, the different kinds of respiratory illnesses. There's bronchitis, aspergillus, which is a fungal infection, E. coli, avian influenza, obviously people hear about. And of course, just dust particles can become irritants to their respiratory system. And the irritant can now allow an easier infection to begin to occur. But as far as respiratory illnesses, I'm not going to go over the particular of all these different pathogens, but generally what the symptoms look like and how they're caused and how to prevent them. Like you're saying, so dirty hutch, dirty coop, what's happening?
Well,
if I'm not cleaning out my hutch or my coop regularly.
Yeah, like let's say you have good ventilation, but there is soiled bedding that is not moved, not changed, it's continually getting soiled.
Yeah.
That air that they're breathing, it's just gonna get damp, acidic, and it's going to agitate.
Yeah.
As you're breathing it in.
If you've ever had a lot of animals, I mean, most people that animals know. Once in a while you get lazy, you're not cleaning, and it builds up, and then that breakdown and the byproducts of the breakdown, all that methane and ammonia smell, that's also an irritant to them. But yeah, if you're letting your coop stay, if it's getting dirty in there and you're not cleaning it, not only is it building up, but like she's saying, the moisture is beginning to collect it, and it becomes a really good breeding facility for germs. You know, they're going to be abundant. They got food, they have a medium to grow on, they have moisture, and then they have heat. And it's usually dark, and light kills a lot of stuff, but it's nice and dark in their chicken coop, so you have this disease breeding. So you want to keep it clean.
And then well ventilated, but not drafty.
Clean, not bleached clean, but, you know, keep
Yeah.
it clean. The animals, like I said, organisms, they're going to adapt to what is in their environment. So
And dry. Yeah.
right,
Clean and
it's
dry.
dry. So yeah, dirty coop is causing most of the respiratory illnesses, which you're going to prevent by cleaning and sufficient, what do you call it? Air.
Ventilation, yes. And then
My
of
brain's
course,
tired.
same
Sufficient
thing
ventilation.
with the same thing with wild birds can also transfer, but it's not an often thing that wild birds transfer things, but it does happen. So, did you want to go over some symptoms?
Yeah, I will in a minute. Just like the wild bird things he's talking about, that's like when I was talking about quail earlier. The wild birds are flying over. Maybe they're coming down into the coop or the run, picking off grains here and there, going to the bathroom, leaving a deposit of organisms, right?
Yeah, like lice. Lice is coming from wild birds. Like
yeah.
you know, some people they'll have a super clean coop and they're keeping their birds well cared for, and then all of a sudden there's a lice outbreak, and they're just like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible chicken parent, and what did I do? And it's just exposure to wild birds. It's just gonna happen once in a while, and you just you know, treat them and then move on. Not a big deal.
All right, so what are symptoms of respiratory illness, Angela W.?
Could be a wheezing, could be a sneezing, gaping, gasping.
Kind of like us,
Yeah.
when people get sick.
They could even get like swelling in the face, like around the eyes and one eye or both eyes could swell out. Yeah, those are the biggest ones, I think, with the respiratory. I'm sure there's some other ones, but those are the biggest.
Yeah, I forgot to mention with the coccidiosis birds, and the same with these respiratory illness birds, you want to practice, you know, proper biosecurity, take the animal out, remove it from the environment, treat it in an isolated place, right?
You'll want to, if you're treating for coccidiosis, just keep in mind that if you see one bird with symptoms, then you want to treat all of them that are in the same space, because it's likely in the environment that they're in. But, yeah.
Yeah, but for the respiratory illness, you're taking your chicken out, treating him.
Yeah, there's usually, you know, different type of antibiotics. Depends on the severity. If it's just like a sneeze, you can use, there's a really good product called Vetrex. It's like
I got a good question.
it's like Vicks for people, but it's for birds. It's the main ingredient is rosemary oil. And I always tell people, you just put like a drip on your fingers and then swipe their nostrils, put that drip of oil on their nostrils. Do it a couple days in a row if you're hearing like a sneeze.
It's
And
like
that usually
Vicks
takes care of
Vapor
it.
Rub for the kids. Right?
Yeah, and it helps boost their immune system and helps calm them and de-stress them. Yeah, it's a really good product. It's an old product that breeders use often.
So with the influenza, so we have highly pathogenic avian influenza. That's the one that they're going around and culling entire facilities for. So that's a big issue. You're going to be testing for that. I mean,
I think like the big facilities, big poultry facilities are the ones who are really
well, yeah,
testing
they're
and
very
such.
closely scrutinized because
Yeah.
it's extremely contagious and it's wiping out all these birds, and you don't want it. I want to get into the whole science of it. It's hopping from animal to animal. It can infect entire. I mean, that's a huge economic threat. So, you mean the poultry industry is, you know, many billion-dollar industry. So, highly pathogenic avian influenza is a threat to that economic behemoth, the poultry industry. So, they got to be very careful with it. You don't want some. You know, and that's why they're scrutinizing smaller people too. You don't want some goofball like, I got me a chicken, it's been sneezing, but I think he's okay, with a really deadly chicken disease coming around. So yeah, these things can be contagious to the birds in the coop, but hopefully it's not the highly,
isolate and keep an eye on the other birds.
yeah,
if you see
isolate them, right? Treat them, and definitely monitor the other birds to see if there's any other signs or symptoms of illness. And if you feel so inclined to do so, have them tested for the bird flu.
And when you are isolating, by the way, just make sure you're putting them in a quiet area, maybe a little darker, not super bright. This is low stimulation, not loud, and yeah, depending on what it is, depending on the type of bird, actually. silkies, for example, they're really docile and lower energy. Sometimes they do better with a buddy. Because sometimes birds that are injured or sick, silkies, they'll just like kind of hunker down and just not do anything. They won't eat, even if the food's in front of them. But if you give them a friend, then the friend will be eating and acting normal.
They're social animals.
Encourages, yeah, they'll kind of get depressed by themselves. Then the other one will watch them and mimic the behavior, and then it'll help get the food in them because they need to get their energy back.
Yeah, like if one of your silkies gets injured, you want to have another silkie with them.
Yeah.
Right, because they're social critters.
Yeah, it does encourage them.
Just like us. I mean, if you're sick sitting there by yourself for weeks, you don't get well too quick.
Yeah.
You know. All right, so those are some illnesses from organisms. So I'm going to go talk about physical stuff. Let's talk about wryneck. Wryneck. What is wryneck? People may have heard of wryneck. It's called torticollis, I think, is the medical name. Torticollis wryneck.
Yeah,
What is
wryneck.
this? What are the symptoms of this, and when does it occur?
It can occur at any time. It's usually due to a nutrient deficiency. I believe the particulars
Like it's vitamin E and selenium.
selenium, yeah. And it can be when the chick is hatching. You might see some like that. Sometimes they hatch that way. Sometimes it could be at any point in their lifespan. It's not like common. It's not like you're gonna end up with like a bunch of your chicks with it or you know, home to your birds. It just might be one once in a while, and it's just nutrient deficiency. Sometimes if there's a selection of food that they can eat from, the bird may not be eating quite everything it needs to be eating, or it's possible its body is just not absorbing properly the nutrients from the food. Or it could be the food that they're being given just doesn't have enough of what they need.
Now, is there anything indicative that this would be a neurological versus a nutrient deficient issue? Or is it just post-treatment?
Now, well, yeah, I think that there are genetic issues at times, if that's what you mean.
Tony Walsh. Hey, R&W Homestead. Thanks for stopping in, man. We're talking chicken sickness and illness and injury.
Yeah, on occasion.
And quail.
It can be like a genetic thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is treatable. And it just is a matter of isolating the bird. Well, symptoms. Symptoms include.
Yeah, that's the important part. So what is this? Like your chicken has the
Sorry,
wryneck.
that's kind of important to tell you so that you can envision what we're even talking about. So usually what happens is the bird at any age, the head goes down and arcs it down toward their feet. So then they start kind of backing up. Some of them, they might twist their head, but they're just not able really to straighten their head up and stand properly. So you can imagine if you're suddenly like with your head down, your body folded, that's going to throw off your balance. So it's throwing off their balance. They're not able to correctly bring their head up, and it looks more scary than it is.
Yeah. It looks like they were in a horrible car accident.
Yes.
They were like flopped
Yeah,
over.
it looks like a horrible brain injury, but it's not. Usually it's just a nutrient deficiency. So what you do is you're going to be giving them some like a Nutri-Drench, something that has vitamin E, selenium in it. Likely you're going to have to be, giving it to them with a dropper because they may not be able to get their head up to drink it from a water that you mix it in. But yeah, you just treat them with your, treat them daily. It could take just a couple days. You might start to see their heads moving up slightly. But if it's a case where their head's all the way down, it's probably going to take a couple weeks for them to get their head all the way back up. So what you'll notice is as you're treating them day to day, their head will start to come up, 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 up. Each day or each couple days you'll see, progress with the head coming up. They might get it up, but then have like their head sideways. So they might be like looking at you from a side angle. And that will continue to correct as you're treating them. Then their head will get straight.
And they'll be normal.
They'll be normal, but because you don't, unless you do research into homework into your bird, it could be that that bird particularly has like a difficult time pulling those nutrients from food, or so you could see it again, or you might not see it ever again.
So it may not be a one to breed.
Definitely not. No.
Yeah, so if you're doing hatches, because a lot of people out there do hatches or they want to hatch. So if you're noticing that the wryneck, it might be
it's a good pet.
Because what's happening, all the birds are eating the same diet, but for some reason this one's not absorbing the nutrients at the same rate as the other chickens.
Yeah.
And is having this
If you're regularly seeing it though, if you hatch clutches, one after the other, and you do keep seeing a few chicks.
Berna, hi. Sorry.
Hi. If you do keep seeing a few chicks in each batch that you're seeing with the wryneck, then I would definitely adjust your food. There's probably something going on with the food that they're getting. They're probably going to need some sort of increase in protein and some nutrients in there. Another thing I just wanted to mention with the wryneck, if they have wryneck and you see that their head is starting to improve, a stressful moment, maybe just like startling them, they might go into like get their head down, and you just kind of have to untwist them and get them back up, and then they'll be able to hold it back up. But I noticed they're stressed and stuff.
Oh, good, thanks. I almost forgot this one. So we're gonna go over a couple more. Splay leg. Splay leg. What is splay leg? Just like it sounds, little legs are splayed. This happens in full-grown chickens?
No.
No, it doesn't happen.
Unless it's an injury.
Yeah, so it's happening in your hatchlings.
If it happens, a splay leg means that their legs are going out to the sides and they can't get their legs up underneath them. They're going out to the sides. If you see an adult doing that, what it means is the thigh muscles, some sort of damage happened.
Yeah, so splay leg's a little different. That's an injury.
Yes.
So splay leg's happening in newly hatched chicks, right? Getting some dinner while listening. Oh, well, thanks for hanging in.
So the splay leg most often happens right after hatching in the incubator. Typically, it's because the surface of the hatcher or the incubator, the floor is too slippery, and when the chick hatches, they're already weak. Their legs are swollen and they're still really wobbly. And if the floor is slippery, then they keep slipping and slipping and slipping, and they can't get their feet underneath them. And once they get their feet underneath them, then they're going to be a little wobbly, and their leg muscles are going to start to strengthen. But if it's too slippery, they're not going to, and it might cause the splay to get like really, really bad.
Right. Let me reiterate that to our friend PA 5x5 code name. So that's important, because if you want to hatch your quail chicks, you got to make sure that their floor has some grip. We use paper towels.
No.
Sorry.
In the incubator, most common people like to use like that cabinet rubber rollout.
Oh, that's right. I'm thinking of their. Sorry, brooder. Go ahead.
So, people will just cut something that's textured, easy to clean. You want it to be easy to clean if you're using something reusable, because you don't want it to harbor bacteria. So that those rubber rollout cabinet
mesh mats. Yeah, not the. What did I say?
You said paper towels.
Yeah, not paper towels. The mesh mat.
Now they can hatch totally fine, no splay leg. Like it typically there won't be splay leg, but if it's a slippery floor, that's a risk. If you do not have a slippery floor in your hatcher or your incubator, and then you move them to your brooder, and then once they're in the brooder, then you're starting to see some chicks suddenly, now they're getting splay leg. They were fine, but now they're getting splay leg. And that's because the brooder is now too slippery. So the first couple days, it is important that the brooder floor too, as well, is textured enough for the same reason, because their legs are swollen right after hatching for the first, about the first 24 hours or less. Their feet and toes are swollen, and they need to be able to grip the floor to be able to get up and strengthen those muscles. So you could use a good textured paper towel. Not all paper towels are equal. I like Bounty.
We use the quicker picker upper.
Yeah, Bounty is really textured. Some people like using like puppy pads and stuff. It just depends on you, or just as long as it's textured and they won't slip.
So with a splay leg, it's something you can treat.
Yes.
So now, like, I'm picking up if you have quail and you notice, oh goodness, this one looks crippled, his legs are splayed out everywhere, pine shavings in the brooder, okay?
So you want to wait for pine, any kind of bedding until, for quail, I would say at least day 3, or maybe day 4. Once they get to day 4, for the jumbo quail, you're going to see they're noticeably bigger already because they grow so fast. Their legs are going to be very strong. Then you can put shavings down, or shavings is better than straw for quail in particular because of the frequency of their manure when they eliminate. The bedding, shavings absorbs better. But yeah, put shavings down at that point. Their legs will be nice and strong, and it'll absorb the manure better, and it'll give them something to do. They do enjoy digging and pecking at it, and it's more fun for them.
Yeah, and what I was asking is if it's fixable, which it is. You can address the splay leg, right? The
Wait, one second. Sorry. The reason why I say wait till day 4 is because the shavings, it's not stationary. So it'll still, if they're so wobbly, it's still going to be slippery for them. So yes, it is.
So can you can you heal splay leg, or is my quail deformed for the rest of his life?
It can be deformed for the rest of its life if you don't act quick. So
rapid diagnosis and treatment is key, right?
Yeah, because they're quick development. Yes, it's easy to correct. Pretty much, I wait until their legs are no longer swollen, which doesn't take too long. It's less than 24 hours. And then you can, there's different things you can do. You can, to make it as simple as possible, you can take a painter's tape because it's not super sticky. What do we have here?
You got a good idea. Make tiny crutches and call them Tiny Tim.
Yes. You can take painter's tape because it's not terribly sticky, and cut a thin strip, and you're going to tape around one foot and then tape the other foot, and you're going to make it so that it's just standing position. You don't want it to be too loose. People will think, oh, it looks like it might be difficult for them to walk. You want it to be normal distance, as if they're standing straight upright. They'll adjust very quickly. Mm-hmm. But if it's too loose, then
it'll splay again.
Yeah, it's gonna heal in that.
So we intuitively, like I've noticed, like talking with people, everybody imagines the animals do just like humans, and they want what humans do. So people are thinking, well, splay leg, I want to have it so they can walk. No, they don't need to do this. They're going to like this, boink, 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 boink. But you want their legs where they're going to be naturally, so they're not spreading out with a long piece of strip that allows them to walk like people.
Yeah, well, they do walk, but the steps are much smaller than you would think.
And they're only in that for not very long.
Yeah, it's like a day or two.
Yeah, it's very quick
that they're healing. I would advise to tape just above the knees. Oh, I've never done that.
I'll do that. You know what? I'm hoping at our next hatch we have some crippled little birds so we can do a video and do an experiment with 2 different styles.
Well, there are lots of YouTube videos, I'm sure.
We should have one. I mean, we deal with it. Anyway,
I don't have
moving
it
on.
often.
All right, so I hope that's clear. It's not uncommon. It's not horrible. It's treatable.
Another thing that people can do is...
and it's preventable.
Easier with chicken chicks. They'll put them in maybe a shot glass, and they have to stand there. Because it doesn't take too long that they have to have their legs like that. They just have to get their body up and start working on balancing and strengthening. Quail don't really work. Well, they don't work putting them in a shot glass because they're like popcorn. They'll hop right out. Yeah.
Okay, I had some note on something else. I can't find it, but I would like to talk about Bumblefoot, which is common enough. People are going to see that.
Taping versus crutches.
Yes. Or both. Tape with little baby crutches for the...
Are you going to tape the crutches to his wings?
Yeah. All right, so Bumblefoot. I think that's pododermatitis is the medical name. I forget. It's like it's pododermatitis. So Bumblefoot, what is Bumblefoot? Bumblefoot we see occasionally. And quail people out there, you know who I'm talking to. Bumblefoot is something you want to be aware of especially with your quail, chickens as well.
Chickens, ducks, it's any poultry.
It's simply, in simple terms, it's an infection that starts in the foot that can grow into an abscess, and even if it's bad, it can become a systemic infection and go throughout the body. So what's happening is the causes. Chickens, perhaps if they're standing like a concrete pad, maybe they have a hard surface they're on all day.
Or if they're really, it's like if they get cut, the bottom of their foot gets cut, some sort of abrasive. They could even be on a roosting bar, and maybe there's some splinters or there's rough edges, and they cut themselves. Same with ducks. Birds on hardware cloth. If it's not vinyl coated.
That's why I'm saying, quail people, listen up.
Then there will likely be some burrs on that wire. So it's very advisable to do some sanding, some light sanding, and just run your hands. Or use the vinyl coated. Yeah, vinyl coated wire is the best, really, because you'll avoid bumblefoot. But run your hands over the surfaces, make sure you get all the burrs out, and then also just check your hutch, the wood areas, make sure there's no nails sticking up anywhere that you missed, or staples or anything like that. But yeah, pretty much if they cut their foot and then they're running around, they like step on a pile of manure, that sort of thing, it's just going to get infected. It'll
get infected, yeah, and you can treat it. Before we talk about the treatment, so I want to get into what happens with that illness.
Usually caused by an injury, like stepping on a rough piece of wire. Yeah, no splinters in the wood. Yeah.
Well, you imagine you're walking around barefoot and everybody else's feces all day long. You're going to get a bad infection. You don't want to get cut on your feet. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty hardy critters, but occasionally, if you have a lot of birds, you're going to see it, and you should treat it. So how do we treat the bumblefoot? And what does it look like? So how do I know if he has a bumblefoot?
The pad of the foot, it should look...
Look on Google, too.
Yeah, it should be. It's like a fleshy pad. It's like kind of like a mini cat. It's just like fleshy. And what will happen is you'll notice maybe like a scab on the pad. If it's left untreated, left to go, then it's going to become an abscess. It's going to be like a bulge. It might look bloody or dried blood on it. It will look uncomfortable if it just is left. It won't get better on its own. That's that. Treating it is not the most fun thing to do.
Again, check with your veterinarian. We are not professional veterinarians. Entertainment purposes only. But we treat it here if we see it.
There's going to be... I guess like a corn, like you have to dig out. It's like a hard, can you explain?
It's infectious tissue. We want to get it out.
It's like a hard corn.
Yes, we're removing the bad tissue out of
below the scab. And you do have to get it out in order to
You'll be making this, if you're not into medical stuff, you'll be going like this a lot.
And then you're going to want to clean it and just keep it clean in some way. You have to isolate the bird. If it's a quail, they'll heal really quick.
Put some, whatchamacallit on it. What do you call that? Antibiotic cream.
There's
Neosporin type stuff.
If you use Neosporin, that's fine, but it has to be non-painkiller type. If the painkiller is toxic to birds, so Neosporin without painkiller. There's Vetericin, I believe is what it's called, a spray. There's different types of things that you can use to treat it.
Because you don't want to get him reinfected. You have an open cut on this bird, so you want to...
So isolate them so that they're keeping their feet cleaner. Once it, scabs over, a clean new scab.
Should I isolate my bird for a healing period?
You should.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long should I be isolating my chicken?
If it's a chicken or a duck, it's going to take a little longer to heal. A quail will heal in a matter of a few days. I mean, they're really fast.
Is this from being a bad chicken parent?
No. No. They could, if it's a chicken.
People feel bad when their animals get sick.
If it's a chicken or a duck, it could just be from stepping on something on the ground. Some chickens are like avid diggers. Like they're just digging away, like looking for bugs and stuff. And they might end up making the pads of their feet raw. And it might look like they have bumblefoot, but they might not. It might just be from over digging. But if they do that, then they are susceptible to cutting their feet and then potentially getting an infection.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the quail heal quick, but it's just it's a process to do.
Yeah, well, medical stuff's a process, but quail are like super quick healers with
Yeah.
everything.
They are. How big should an isolation pen be for jumbos? 1 by 1? Yeah, something small. You could even use like a cat carrier, just something that is going to keep them contained and not jumping all over the place. And big enough for you to put a food and water, in there for them with bedding.
You definitely don't want a big where they can hit their head a lot, like something real tall.
And it could be, you could be something with plastic or a wire type or vinyl flooring as well, as long as it's clean and or not rough. But yeah, a quiet place. Just keep them in a quiet place.
The last thing I'll discuss, there's a couple more things I'm going to talk about. Common illness. Now, this has nothing to do with the weather, as we're talking about springtime and the birds moving around and more pathogens being around. But being egg-bound. Everybody, you may have heard of this. Egg-bound. Do we see that much?
No. But it is something that some people do see.
Have we ever had that?
No, we haven't.
I don't think we've ever had that.
It's best to prevent.
Yeah. So what is being egg-bound in poultry? Oh, there is a medical term. I never read this one, so this one's egg dystocia. I feel like a scientist. Egg dystocia.
You like that?
I just call it being egg-bound. So what is being egg-bound? What causes it? How do I treat it? You're my chicken expert. I'm the person who knows nothing of chickens. So
You know quite a bit.
What is being egg-bound?
It means that they are having extreme difficulty or they're prevented entirely from passing an egg.
Not good.
Yeah, this can.
That happen to quail?
Yeah, this can happen to quail.
I know. I'm just asking for
poultry,
people watching.
Ducks too. Yeah. And it can be life-threatening for the bird if they are unable to pass the egg. So you may see symptoms might include just overall distress, panting, shaking. You might be able to see the bulge of the egg.
Distension.
Yeah, like it wants to come out, but it won't. Like it's not far from coming out. You might even see a bulge in the abdomen, lower abdomen, more internally too. If you're used to the schedule of your bird laying, and there should be some eggs, you should have had some eggs. You might then look at them and see a bulge. So.
Yeah, you're not getting eggs, and you noticed your chicken's lumping around, is looking like, is it not looking comfortable?
Yeah, it's there.
And you haven't been getting eggs. I'm gonna check. How do I check? Am I going too fast?
Usually, the egg isn't far from coming out, and so you can soak her lower parts in like a warm water or like an Epsom salt type water to help relax the muscles and to help the process of the egg coming through. You can use a lubricant around Vaseline around the exit way, and with clean hands or gloved hands, you can help the egg come out.
So is this caused strictly by calcium deficiency, or is it age related?
So I haven't interacted with this too much. I don't know, what is your...
Well, what I know is, it has to do with dietary.
Yeah, I think
calcium. Lack of calcium.
So
it's the same with so that's why it's really important with the young birds who are going into egg laying phase that their calcium is.
Well, once they hit egg laying age and till they're done laying eggs.
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, I'm saying that because if you're hatching eggs, anybody out there who wants to hatch eggs, and you're starting them on a grower protein feed, you want to be sure that when you're transferring them into a lower protein, that it has the calcium present for developing muscles, right?
Yeah.
And their egg production.
They said sometimes egg-bound is lack of fiber. Yeah, so with the calcium, most people know it helps strengthen eggshells so that there's an eggshell present It's not brittle. It's a strong eggshell. The calcium will help with that, but it does also help strengthen their egg laying muscles, and that whole process. It aids in the egg laying process.
Yeah. More common in older hens.
Yeah.
Per my research.
Now,
we don't have older
I did
hens.
just talk with somebody who had this issue actually, which is interesting that this came up. And it was because the one bird, so this person takes very good care of her birds, her chickens, and feeds them very well, and different treats and stuff as well, and had calcium out for the birds to eat at will, not mixed in the food. And this one bird was not eating the calcium. The other ones were, and this one wasn't. So then it ended up with an egg-bound situation. So what she's going to do now is she's going to mix the calcium in the food. If you're using a layer feed that's already mixed and made, it will have calcium in it. But if you're doing your own sort of thing, then you might, if you end up having something like this, just go ahead and mix the calcium in. If it's like oyster shells or limestone chunks, the birds will eat what they need, and then they'll leave excess out.
Yeah, so the chickens, what's really weird about these animals is they know what to eat.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to overeat something, generally speaking. They could, particularly if it's like what do you call it, a pellet mix, and you're giving them too much of an ingredient in a pellet, and it's homogenized. But if it's wild, whole things, they're going to know what to pick. Can you feed these shells back to quail like chickens? Yes.
Can you dry and grind the shells and feed back to quail and chickens like chickens? Yes.
Yeah, so actually we just did that video on eggs. I just did a whole video about eggs. So the eggs are calcium carbonate, 98% or so, and there's some trace minerals and stuff. But the eggshell is 98% like calcium carbonate. Yeah, you can smash it up. But like Verna said, do not give them eggs that look like eggs because they'll start eating the other eggs. But yeah, you can use that.
Yeah.
I used to eat the eggshells instead of taking a calcium supplement. She thinks I'm a nut with half the stuff I do. I used to eat eggshells.
Well, if you want to do that, go ahead. I will not stop you.
Yeah, so you can do that.
Yes.
But you just want to make sure you're not over-calcifying the birds too.
Yeah, as long as if it's the chunks are big enough for them to pick at it and take what they want, that's pretty ideal. Now they do have powder, like limestone in a powder version, and that's fine if you have hens. But if you have roosters generally, if they're fed a layer feed, they're usually fine. But if it's like an added calcium that's a powdered version and it's sticking to a lot of the ingredients, the roosters, they can end up having kidney issues with too much calcium, and it can they'll end up drinking a whole bunch of water. You'll see that suddenly there's like they're just like obsessing with the water, and the kidneys are just not being able to flush properly, and it can be fatal to roosters. So you don't have to worry if you're buying like standard layer feed, that sort of thing. Usually roosters are fine, but I'm hesitant if you use like a powdered limestone type, even if it's measured out properly, it just doesn't necessarily evenly coat the food, I think, properly. Then the rooster might get too much. So it's best if you're free choice feeding them to just give them the chunk type that you can add to the food, and they'll be able to pick what they want.
Because they know.
Yes, they do. They know what it is, and they know how much they need.
And the rooster won't overdose on the calcium,
yeah.
which is kind of neat. Like it's what do they call that? Nutritive something, right? It's some proper. I forget. It's a very common word, but the chickens know inherently what to eat through smell, through trial and error, some genetic and some instinct. So we make a whole grain. We're always talking about. So besides quail and our silkies, we produce a chicken feed, a grain, but it's a whole grain mix. And so a lot of the stuff, I think people have this intuitive in their mind. Again, they're thinking like humans, like, oh, I don't want to give my chickens whole grains because I wouldn't eat whole grains because I want I want a pellet or whatever's going to the head. But the chicken is really a magnificent critter, and they have really good vision, and they know what they're picking through. And they're going to get the ingredients they need to satisfy their nutritional
daily
needs.
Yeah.
So that's all they do all day long. That's what they're designed to do. They're pecking around looking for what they need, and they take it as they need it. So they don't eat too much calcium, etc. So it's pretty neat stuff. Okay, one last thing I'm going to go over is just prolapsing that you see occasionally, which is more common than being egg bound, I guess.
Yeah, prolapsing. That is when
It's a hen problem.
it's well.
Mostly?
I mean, it's mostly a hen problem.
Mostly a hen
It's
problem.
not impossible in the roosters. It's where their internal egg laying parts come out, and they're inside out of them.
Also not good.
It can be from varying degrees. Like with the quail, for example, if you're handling quail, and if they're like the hens, if you're handling the hens and they start struggling, and you like instinctively want to like kind of squeeze them. Yeah. If you look, you can see that you'll see a little bit of fleshy pink, and that's a very, very, very slight prolapse. The pressure of you squeezing them.
Quail are like a tube of toothpaste.
You want to don't squeeze them. If you see that, release the pressure immediately, and it'll go back in, and that's like minor. Yeah. Now, if you see the whole, it's all out. Usually that's due to like they laid a really big egg, or they just had a difficult time laying the egg, passing the egg. And if you see that, you're gonna need to intervene if it's inside out. It's very painful. The bird will probably be shaking, isolating, not moving a lot. And what you want to do is clean.
A stress ball.
What?
Said the quail's like a stress ball.
Yes. You want to make sure it's clean. Use some warm water, maybe Epsom salt water if needed. If it looks clean already, make sure your hands are clean or use gloves. And you can use like a lubricant if needed, but very gently. Just push it back in, and it should go back in and stay in.
Yeah, you don't want to have dirty stuff like cause infection.
Yeah.
So stay clean.
Just cleanliness, yeah. Now, sometimes then it's once and done, no issues after that. Other times, if it's a really bad prolapse, it might have a hard time staying in because it needs to heal. You might see this more in the chickens, the healing process being more difficult. And in that case, definitely going to want to isolate, get the fleshy parts back in. Sorry, I don't have the technical terms. Back in, and you could use, I heard somebody using something like a sleeping mask, something soft. She put it up against the rear end of her bird and kind of strapped it on. Something gentle to keep, because it can work its way back out, like a really bad one, a really bad prolapse. It can work its way back out. So push back in gently and cleanly, and then put something up against it. This is more for a bigger bird.
Chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, and just keep isolated in a way where she's not really going to move too much. And after a couple of days, it'll correct itself. But you're going to want to keep her in a dark area, because you want to kind of stop the egg laying process. She may have an egg still coming, so you're just going to have to keep an eye on her and make sure in case another egg comes out and she's not fully healed.
It probably would. It takes about 24 hours for an egg to form. Yeah. So an egg's
it may happen again
in development.
And just be patient. She just needs some time to heal. Now, if you have breeding birds, quail that you're breeding, if this happens, I do not recommend keeping. If it happens once and then keeps happening more than once, because sometimes when the quails start laying eggs, the hens, sometimes they lay like these ridiculously large eggs for their first eggs, and then they'll normalize after a couple egg laying. So if they prolapse once and then it's corrected with no issue, then it's probably fine. But I would not keep one that's prone to this in your breeding program, or you may, if it's a quail, you might
see it happening again in the offspring.
Yeah, it could be an issue that you see more. So
And the quail breed so quickly and they reproduce so quickly.
yeah, you might just want to, if they're for
okay
meat,
just to
you
say
might want
we're
to
not
send
going to
her to
breed her
camp.
again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, makes sense.
But it's definitely
Anyway,
fixable.
that's common. Again, especially for new people. If you see that, don't freak out. It's treatable.
Yeah.
Address it. Be clean. You don't want to introduce bacteria and other germs inside of a bird.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, anything else to discuss? No, I think we discussed plenty of stuff. I mean, I had the last time, so we did this as a live before, I guess, almost
It was
a
a
year
while ago, yeah.
It's been a while, 8 months or so. Speaking of which, down in the description of this video is a little quick reference sheet I made. It's cool, it's got drawings on it, it's not boring. It'll tell you the common stuff, I think the stuff we talked about, and then a description of them. How many types of birds do you have? We here at Dinosaur Land, not many at all, actually. We have jumbo coturnix.
Yeah, we have the jumbo quail. We have black Australorp chickens for laying. They're a really nice heritage breed, friendly breed. We have Muscovy ducks.
Those are good.
Yeah, the breeders are our pets.
She ate one. She ate
I had
one
one
today.
for dinner. They taste like sirloin steak.
Tastes like
they
beef
taste
steak.
and look like sirloin
So,
steak.
yeah, anybody out there wondering if you don't have cows but you like beef, Muscovy ducks, those are good homestead animals, and they're good, what do you call it, permaculture animals, because they're aerating the soil, they're constantly eating, right? They're going around pecking, and they'll tear up, and they're really great for your garden. But they taste like cows.
Yeah,
So the males get big like a goose.
Yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah.
And they're not. It looks and tastes like sirloin steak, like you wouldn't
Just like
know.
steak.
It's not fatty. It's not oily.
It's the most unexciting new food you'll ever have because you're like, oh, this is just like steak.
But it is exciting too, especially if you aren't able to have a cow, but you would like to have, a part of growing your own meat and knowing what went into the meat and knowing that it's chemical free and clean and healthy. Then yeah, grow some Muscovy offspring. And then we also have silky chickens, of course.
Silky chickens, she has millions of them. She raises quite a bit.
How long do you raise ducks before you can eat them? So
What's
the
your weight?
Muscovies, the way it works is the older they get, the darker the meat becomes. The more dark red it becomes. So I would say and also the flavor can change slightly with age. So I would say at least 13 weeks old. And the older they get, then, like I said, the more of that beef color you're going to have.
Yeah.
So
it's like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, butchering age, yeah.
They get bigger and bigger. But again, they're not just for eating. They do a lot of pecking, like scrounging around.
Yeah, they're very
stuff.
good foragers.
Yeah, great foragers.
They're
so.
quiet.
They don't make noise.
They don't quack. They'll make like a cooing dove sound. And the males will make like a hissy sound. That's just the way that the vocal cords
So if you
are.
want to keep an animal on the down low in the neighborhood, when people know you have something, the Muscovy ducks don't crow, they don't quack. They don't make
they're quiet. They don't need a pond. They don't need a stream. They do just fine with a big pail of water, fresh water daily. Yeah.
So that's our chickens.
They'd be good for garden patrol. Yes, they would. They eat the bugs and not the plants in your garden, right?
They ate my pepper plants.
They'll eat the tomatoes. So you want to have your either the lower branches of your vegetable plants trimmed up, or maybe raised bed. You can, as long as there's plenty of other foods for them to eat, then they should leave your plants alone.
They should.
But there's no guarantee because they are avid foragers, so they might.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like peppers, and they ate my beloved. I had a special pepper. I was like, ducks, what the?
They enjoyed it.
Anyway. Yeah, but that's our critters.
If they'll eat spotted lanternflies, I'm getting some. Laugh out loud.
Oh, no, he's got that.
I don't know if they do.
Yeah, we haven't actually seen that many this year.
No.
Spotted lanternflies. I guess they moved down
Yeah,
south.
I would look into that. I've noticed, not the ducks, but I've noticed the chickens, my chickens anyways, don't eat those lanternflies. I think
why?
They just have this look of
It's because they're from China.
I think the pattern, the spotted pattern, just is kind of alarming, like danger kind of look. But I don't know about the ducks. What state are you in? We are in Pennsylvania.
We're in Pennsylvania, Verna. We're in southern Lancaster County in PA.
He said the lanternflies destroyed his grape harvest. That's terrible.
Oh, crap, man. Oh, he's in
Yeah.
PA, all right. Yeah, we're in southern Lancaster County. It's really pretty where we are. I have a couple videos on here just of outdoor stuff because we got rivers, streams, waterfalls, mountains. Did I punch you? Carnivore? Am I a carnivore? Well, if it moves, I'm going to munch them down. I guess so, yeah. I've been eating carnivorous things my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, I was having this conversation the other day. It's weird how, and I understand the vegetarian point of view, because here we'll eat a cow. Overseas, they're going to eat a dog, but we don't eat dogs over here.
No.
I'm like, well, wait a minute. Cows are really nice animals, too. They're sweet, they're gentle, but damn it, they're delicious.
They're hard to have in the house with you.
Now, if there's one animal I think we should stop eating altogether, it's got to be pigs, because I have a pet pig.
What height fence do Muscovies need? They do not need a tall fence as long as you are keeping their wings clipped.
Yeah, clip
So you're
the
going to
wings.
need to clip their wings once a year. Because the hens will fly. The hens will fly.
If you've never done that, it's not really difficult.
They may be heavy birds, but they have strong wings. So yep, once you clip a wing, then they stay down. Our fencing is like 3 feet tall, and they stay in there. They're really mild tempered, low energy type ducks, and they're actually a cousin of a duck. They're not technically a duck, but yeah.
Weary Bunny said something over here. I'm using a phone, that's why I keep leaning in. I'm a carnivore. Well, good, man. You should be carnivore. That meat's good for you.
Yeah, the protein and all that.
So, gosh, I talk about nutrition and nutrition chemistry on here frequently enough, which is extremely and unbelievably and almost infinitely complex. But there are compounds in meat that you're not getting from plants that are exceptionally beneficial for our cells, for our bodies. Well, you may have turned me on to another bird. Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, give me a call.
I always recommend the 3 best animals to have on like a small homestead. It doesn't matter how big your homestead is, but if it's small and you have enough room for some poultry, would be the jumbo quail for the meat and eggs, the high production, quick turnover.
Yeah.
The Muscovy ducks for that really good sirloin steak meat, and they are quick to butcher as well. And really, you don't even need an incubator to hatch them. The Muscovy hens are just like silkies. They're such good mothers. They want to hatch their babies out. They'll hatch them. They'll take care of the babies. They'll grow them for you. So it's actually really easy.
But then, I was going to say, you should have a little pool or something with water, because they carry moisture back to the eggs.
Well, they can do that with their pan of water.
Yeah, what am I thinking?
They just need fresh water daily.
Yeah, so the mama duck will come back with moisture to keep humidity on the eggs when she's incubating them.
And then the third animal would be meat rabbits, because they're quiet, they're easy to care for, they're quick meat. It's a meat that you can use on lots of different types of dishes. So those 3 animals, yeah, I think are great to have.
Well, the Muscovies hatch quail eggs as well.
No, they'll probably eat them.
Yeah,
They'll eat them.
that's the other way. Like the silkies,
The silkies might hatch.
The silkies might probably height. Well, the silky eggs aren't very much bigger than the quail.
Yeah, a
eggs.
silky will lay on a rock, or they'll lay on a potato. Yeah,
so you may want to try a silky. Yep, rabbits are on the list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't bred bunnies in a while. I like the bunnies. The bunnies are cute.
He has a hard time with processing them.
I don't like
'Cause what
processing
happens
anything.
is he holds them, he cuddles them, he immediately names them. You're not supposed to do these things.
There was buttons and sugar
He's
plum
always
and
holding
cinnamon
them to
and-
his face.
Yeah, well, at least they were happy. Muscovies are too heavy. Yeah, they'll crush the eggs, but they'll probably
that's
eat
true.
them too.
They'll definitely eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I think that was a good chit chat.
Rabbit 1, 2, and 3.
That's the names to keep
Oh, yes.
from not feeling
Yes.
sad about turning them into sandwiches.
I wanted to just get the white New Zealand's with the pink eyes, and he was like, no, I don't want white. I want colors, and that was like.
In the back
They
of my
became his
head,
pets.
I have this imagination like I'm still 5, and I'd have this troop of animals following me around into battle. Like my bunnies would be traveling with me. I have a pig, if you didn't know, so I take my pig with me places. And I got all these weird creatures.
Yeah, Rex rabbits have really nice fur. Yeah, it's very soft, velvety.
Yeah, so like when we send the rabbits off to eating land, I take their skins. Their skins are nice and fluffy, right?
Yeah, but as far as I've done research, there's lots of different breeds of meat rabbits that are perfectly great. Even mixed breeds, perfectly great for going out. If you're looking for like top of the line efficiency, they've done studies on this. What you do is have a pure breed New Zealand and a pure breed Californian, and breed them, and then the offspring, they'll grow slightly faster than if they were both pure breed parents of the same breed, but you wouldn't be able to get the same growth rate, turnover rate by then breeding the young, the mix. So you'd have to have the two different breeds.
Yeah, little FYI for anybody out there in internet land thinking of getting animals, be very wary of where you're getting animals. God, I mean, people sell the worst stuff off of like Craigslist.
Yeah,
so you really got to vet your sources. Hey, vet to find an animal.
The rabbits, the 4-H groups, kids in the 4-H groups, they're often showing rabbits, and then they don't want them, afterwards. So they're usually have, they're not pets. They usually have 4-H rabbits that are really nice, proper form and all that available. And they're really nicely formed.
Verna says they usually sell their throwaways.
Yes, yeah, because they're breeding them. They're breeding them because they're trying to keep that, the standard of perfection for the breed going. So they're not going to be keeping.
Yeah, just be careful. Like dealing on the internet, like we did a video about that, like scammers, animal scammers. Remember? Because they'll be on the Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and. Just ripping people off. Sometimes it's a legit scam where they steal people's money and give you nothing. Or worse than that, I'd rather you be a thief and you just rob me than lie to me and give me some. Now I'm stuck with a crappy animal.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you stole $20. That's a lot better than I gave you $20 and now I got this dilapidated rabbit that I have no use for. Now I'm really upset.
Yeah, and like I said, whatever you have, it's gonna have some meat on it. But if you're looking for efficiency,
I did brain tanning. Yeah, I'll pass on height.
Then proper form with anything, any animal is important. And the rabbits, usually they're this nice rounded, their back is nicely rounded. And what happens is the meat ratio on there is going to be really nice once you process and also formed properly. Some rabbits end up being really long, or they're just growing. They're taking a long time to grow. Yeah.
Yeah. Educate yourself on what to look for. Or remember all the P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. There's an extra P in there, but yeah. So proper planning. Learn about whatever you're getting into. Consult with who knows. Like, find out who knows stuff and get good information and make wise choices. It's a lot easier to do it right. Take more time on the front end to learn about what you're doing to do it right the first time rather than do it quickly on the front end and then be stressed out trying to fix what wasn't done properly at the beginning. We always talk about that. Proper goal, education, cut costs at the beginning, save your time, save the stress, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done talking. My tongue's going to fall out. So,
yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah, guys.
If you're new, or if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We're working on growing our channel, so we'd love the support. And thank you guys for all the comments. If you have any more comments, let us know. What do we have here? It is always good to have someone with you that knows what you need, just like when buying a car. Oh, that's true.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
That's why I say reach out, find out somebody who knows something and get good info. Hey, thanks. Have a happy new year and a blessed night. You too, Verna.
Yeah,
thanks for coming in. Appreciate
thank you
it.
guys.
I hope you're doing well and everything out there. I remember she moved a year ago, but I hope everything's working out and you had a great year, and I hope you have an even better one this 2025. All right, guys. I guess we'll see you on the next one. And we were doing these videos like horizontal style, but I noticed when I do them vertical style, the YouTube populates it more, and people actually see them a little more.
Mm-hmm.
So we just started doing vertical. All right, cool. Much obliged. Hope to see you on the next one. Hope this was fascinating and informative. I'm pushing the button with my finger here, and we'll see you again.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.